Hey everyone, this is Bridgette Reyes and I'm back with another stylish tip for you. I got a comment on my blog last week that I wanted to answer, and it was in response to a post I had written in a video I shared a few weeks ago, actually maybe in last week, about how to stylishly age gracefully when a reader asked about how to look stylish as she's 50 and beyond. And I got a response from someone who's actually younger, and she asked me, she said, I'm wondering whether you could consider doing the converse of this video. Ideas for women in their 20s who work in conservative fields but don't want to look like they've borrowed mom's work wardrobe. Speaking for myself, I have a fair bit of disposable income but don't necessarily want to spend too much in this area when there are also student loans, weddings, and all kind of other expenses that should be taken into account. And I thought, what a great follow-up to the video on how to age gracefully. What do you do when you're younger and you want to look like you can compete with your older peers and colleagues, but you're young? And I immediately thought of when I first started my business in 2002, I was 28 years old. So I was fairly young. And it seems that over the years, that as I've grown, my clients have sort of grown with me, or who contacts me has gotten older. So when I was much younger, I had a lot of clients who were in their late 20s, early 30s, who were really reaching success. The old college wardrobe, no longer fit. They were getting better positions. They needed to look more professional. And they were stuck in that sort of growing up, how do I do this, kind of weird place. And I vividly remember one of my clients who was, I believe at the time, in her late 20s. And she was self-employed in a very corporate professional field. And I remember going through her closet and I kept pulling out these dowdy suits. I'm talking like, her mom, like this commenter on my blog, it was like mom's wardrobe. And her very rational mind, in her mind, because this particular client of mine was working with people, she was very successful, she was working with people much older than her. In her mind, she thought, well, if I wear suits that my older colleagues wear, then I will blend with them. And I could obviously see the logic in that. However, again, just like this commenter said, it looked like mom's wardrobe. And what actually wound up happening was she looked younger as opposed to older. So what happens when a younger person who's been very successful early on in their career embraces styles that are too old and dowdy, she does look younger. She looks like it's usually ill-fitting, it usually looks a little frumpy on her, whereas on an older woman it would look stylish and fabulous. On a younger woman it just looks like, she looks like a kid. She looks like a kid. She looks like a kid who borrowed mom's clothing for her first interview. So it's actually not a good idea to try to look older with older clothing. So what does this young professional woman do? I think that it's pretty obvious first, but a woman who is starting to do well in her career needs to ditch the college clothes, okay? So if you are doing well or you want to do well, you need to take your wardrobe seriously. No more carrying the backpack or the bag that you carried on campus. No more leggings if you're in a very corporate environment. Like, no more things like this. It's all got to go. But, unlike the woman who commented on my blog who's making a decent living, sometimes budgets can be very tough when you're young and you're doing well in your career, but you haven't yet gotten the income to match that just yet. So, or like the woman who commented, she has other expenses. Most women in their late 20s are still paying off the college loans. Maybe they're getting married. There's other expenses. So what I would suggest is that it's perfectly okay to stay towards the mass chains like the Banana Republics and the Ann Taylors and those retailers who certainly target the young professional woman and beyond. But I think it's also important for this woman to perhaps invest in pieces to complement those less expensive purchases. So if it's one good quality handbag, and you only have to have one, you don't have to have a whole collection. Or if you're a scarf person, perhaps some good investment scarves that you'll probably have for years to come. A really great trench coat. Invest in those things that are timeless. Maybe it is one really good investment suit, a great blazer. So you have just a few things that have a timelessness to them so that in a year you're not ditching them. And then when you are asking me on how to age gracefully, perhaps maybe you still have some of those items. So things that have longevity are certainly not a bad idea to invest in. I think that what it also does is, and there's this sort of what I call cross-dressing, and it's funny, I was talking to my friend Jen Rogan, who is the costume designer for Girls and Orange is the New Black, and she does this a lot with her costuming too. We were talking about this. It's this sort of high-low dressing. So what happens is when you have one good investment piece, like a great handbag or a really good pair of shoes, that less expensive jacket that perhaps came from Zara that is a little bit more fitting to your style gets automatically elevated when you balance it with something that's more of an investment. So you can have those less expensive fleeting pieces that are perfectly okay for a younger professional wardrobe, be it from a Zara, a Banana Republic. Hey, you can even get some inexpensive summer dresses that might be okay for work, even like an Old Navy. I mean, Kohl's, you can get them there, but when you pair them with a great pair of shoes or a good handbag or a good scarf or some really great investment jewelry, those pieces elevate naturally on their own. So you can stick with the younger labels, the faster labels. When I say faster, I mean more contemporary. And as long as you're pairing them with things that are a little bit more timeless, because the other thing you need to consider is fit. So like in the video about aging gracefully, there are some brands for an older woman who use fit models who have more of a missy figure. Younger contemporary lines will often use a thinner, younger fit model. So these labels may fit you well. So it's really about balance. And really abandoning, once you get past, once you're into that first job, you really do have to get rid of the college days wardrobe. And then you can also think tight, and I think that is too, when a young professional has a limited budget, I think she has to really think in a very tight capsule. And there is a blog post that I have on how to create a mix and match professional wardrobe that's actually on my blog that you can search, as well as a blog on my about what to wear to an interview, no matter what type of profession you're in or if you're younger, that can show this a little bit more. But I think too, what is important when you're younger is to really look at your budget and see how much room you have to spend, and then really be mindful about everything coordinating together, so that if you have one good suit, a really great blazer, a good skirt, that you can mix and match all these items and then throw in the less expensive pieces that can change it up or accessorize it. I do a series on my blog every Wednesday called Accessorized 5 Ways. How can your accessories change up the few items that you have that are a little bit less expensive or a little bit more expensive to get more value from them? So that is my tip when you're younger. Definitely, avoid the older, the labels that are really tailored to that older client, because they're just going to make you look younger, and stick with the labels that are designed more for a younger professional woman. And, I have to tell you, there probably are more out there for a younger professional than for an older professional of all price points. Like I said, you can do everything down from Ann Taylor all the way up to a Tahari, which tends to also be great for a professional woman who has a little bit more money to spend. So, and just a quick little side note I should point out is that the client that I spoke about earlier, who was in her late 20s, who was trying to build a professional wardrobe to compete with her older colleagues. After she worked with me and she changed her wardrobe up, she actually tripled her sales. So there is something to be said about dressing appropriately for your age and not trying to look older by dressing older. Embrace your age that it is now, and learn how to look professional at the age you are. So that's my tip for this week. I hope that helps you. I'd be happy to elaborate more. Should you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share here on the video, you can also ask me a question by visiting my website, bridgetterais.com, on Facebook, facebook.com/Bridgette Rais Style Expert, and on all other social media channels, I am at Bridgette Rais. Looking forward to seeing you next week, and have a great week.